Hello. So after listening to Dr. Connie Book's eloquent and powerful inauguration speech yesterday, I promptly came home and added a prologue of sorts to my already completed comments for today. In addition to having stunningly brilliant and similarly aged children, Dr. Book and I have a few other things in common. So, as I share my story, you may notice a few similar themes related to modes of transportation and the importance of libraries. All I can say is, great minds think alike. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to talk about two of my favorite things and one of my favorite spaces. The space where favorite topic number one, my scholarship on children and adolescents living with HIV, intersects with favorite topic number two, teaching, in the form of mentored undergraduate research. This is my happy place. Mentoring young scholars as they wrestle with a question within my own area of expertise, well, let's just say it's about as good as it gets. I'm going to tell you about some of the questions my students have explored, as well as some of their impressive outcomes. But first, I want to explain the process, and for that we have to go back in time a bit. When I was a little girl, at the beginning of each summer, my mother would load up all four kids in the green Ford LTD station wagon and drive us to the library, and we would each get the maximum number of 15 books per child. I always made a beeline to the biography section and chose, I know, right? I mean, it's crazy. Chose to read every single biography that I could on girls and women. I wanted to read about women who challenged social norms and gender roles, who fought injustice and oppression, women who made discoveries. But my all-time favorite biographies were those about Annie Sullivan and Helen Keller. I read everything I could about the teacher and her student. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with her story, Helen Keller was born in 1880. When she was 19 months old, she contracted scarlet fever, leaving her deaf and blind. Her parents hired Annie Sullivan at the age of 7 to come and teach her to teach sign language. At the iconic water pump scene in the play and movie The Miracle Worker, Helen realizes for the first time that this means water, and the world changed. Her understanding of the world profoundly shifted that day. Helen Keller went on to graduate from Radcliffe College and became an ardent advocate for social justice. When I begin to work with my own students, I encourage them to be open to water pump moments where there's unexpected enlightenment, awakening, and even disequilibrium. So, in fact, the water pump scene provides a visual depiction of the undergraduate research mentoring process. So let's break it down. The teacher brings education and training, and of course, high expectations. The student brings passion, perseverance, intelligence, and her own life experience. The water is the mechanism by which all of this comes together. It's the existing theory, the literature, the answered and the unanswered questions. Moments of such clarity are not common in life. They require a lot of work from both parties. They also require a mutually respectful, trusting relationship. I always made that's the last page. Without the relationship, Helen Keller would have never learned to communicate. I have come to appreciate the importance of relationships through my own scholarship as well as my work with students. My scholarship journey began in 1990 when I worked as a clinical social worker at the National Cancer Institute. This was the first time that children with HIV had access to treatment. All of my current work stems from this formative experience. Very few individuals with HIV on this slide are alive today. Adam, Charlotte, Michael, Cheryl, Chamisa are all gone. Yet one child on this slide is now a pharmacist who is married and has a healthy 8-year-old little girl. Another one has become desperately ill, but continues to try to fulfill her dream of becoming a chef. She is still angry at her mother for not telling her she had HIV until she was a teenager. I know these things because they participated in my sabbatical research, which grew out of the realization that while many children had died at a young age, some were surviving well into adolescence and young adulthood. But the social service providers were not keeping up with their emerging needs. I studied features of their development, including the transition to adult care and aspects of sexual and reproductive health. And I'd like to share one particular project with you that also involved Jamie Albright, class of 2013, to highlight the intersection between my scholarship, student research, and the importance of relationships. I was studying the reasons why young people with HIV did or did not want to have children. Jamie's research focused on the reproductive health information that physicians were providing to the same population. Together, we interviewed 35 adolescents and young adults, recruiting from a wide variety of medical settings. Jamie was contacted by a 19-year-old young woman who had heard about the study, and she wanted to set up an interview. They met, and as the interview proceeded, Jamie asked a question that is frequently included in surveys and interviews. How many children do you have? The young woman burst into tears. Jamie, alarmed, suggested they stop the interview. The young woman insisted that she wanted to continue and told Jamie that at the age of 15 she had become pregnant and hidden the pregnancy from her parents and her doctors for months. She ultimately decided to relinquish her baby for adoption. However, she told Jamie she had never shared that story outside of her family. After the interview ended, she stood up, hugged Jamie, and said, "Thank you. Thank you for letting me tell my story." Upon reflection, Jamie realized that she had a gift and an interest in helping people heal by telling their stories as a way to deal with trauma. She is now a doctoral student in clinical psychology at UVA and will propose her dissertation next week. Her ability to establish rapport with her research participant created a space where this young person could tell her story. How powerful is that? Her access to that story was contingent upon my relationship with others in the field who work with young people living with HIV and the time that we spent together practicing the interview. Here are but a few of the many other amazing students with whom I have worked, and I think I saw Britton Pund walk in the back. Can you just give a shout out and wave your hand, please? Britton Pund was one of the very first undergraduate research students I ever worked with, and it is such an honor that she's here. That's her right there. Sorry, just had to say that, of course. The young scholars you see have published in high-impact journals such as AIDS Care and presented at conferences such as the American Psychosocial Oncology Society, where many of the other conference participants assumed the Elon students were in medical school, which made their day, by the way. Beyond the concrete outcomes, participating in undergraduate research has also led to personal insight. Sam realized that she didn't want to go into international development. Devon's research sparked an interest in medicine, and she's in the process of applying to medical school. It is such an honor to walk alongside a student as they begin to take ownership of a question and make previously unmade connections at their own metaphoric water pump. I can imagine how Annie Sullivan felt as she watched her pupil take the world by storm. I had a similar experience at the International AIDS Conference held in Amsterdam this summer when I had the opportunity to present with 3 students. Sam Perry is now at the University of Chicago pursuing her master's degree in social work. She presented her research conducted in Uganda. I presented research on the emerging population of internationally adopted children with HIV, as did Sarah Aldrew, who is pursuing her Master's of Public Health at George Washington University. And Amanda Bingaman, who is a current junior, was able to attend, funded through the Lumen Prize. I was so proud. I could not stop smiling. It was amazing. It doesn't get better than this, as I said before. To watch students present at national and international conferences with published research headed off to graduate school, to the Peace Corps, to employment, to engage in further research through the Fulbright program, well, now you know why this is my happy place. Thank you for letting me share.